WTN. All right, let me do a couple of things here. All right. We are live at California Closets and happy to have you with us all afternoon long. A lot of folks stopping by saying hello already, and we would love to see you. All you have to do is swing on in. We're at Cool Springs Boulevard. If you know the Cool Springs area and you know the gallery, you know the area. I don't need to tell you. It's 420 Cool Springs Boulevard. Just type that in the old GPS, and you'll be here before you know it. California Closets has redone their entire showroom area, and they want to show it off. And let me tell you something. They're doing stuff with closets that, let's just put it this way. Keep my wife away from this as much as possible. Rich, can you turn this off? Is that possible? Because I'm getting a little echo out of it. There you go. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. All right, so we do have some other items to tell you about before we get back into some of the activities going on out here. Super Text line is up and running at 615-737-9986. 615-737-9986. Pardon me, I got distracted there. What a coincidence, says Wendy. Dan Mandis is coming to us live today from the very same place he began, a closet in California. That's funny. That's pretty good. I like that. No one has ever been able to clearly explain why a white person can't say the word but a black person can. Are you able to explain this? That's why these younger guys just felt it was okay because they heard their music in their day-to-day interactions with friends. So what's the difference? You are right, 5281. And if we want to have this discussion, I'm willing, right? So you are correct that it is the hypocrisy and the double standard that exists around that word that allows it to continue to fester. And if everyone would agree that the word itself, and I would not go so far as to compare this to the Confederate flag, although the Confederate flag got close. And I am very respectful of Confederate history. I'm very respectful for those of you who have gone so far as to trace your family roots back to the Confederacy, and you want to honor those that served in your family or in your extended family. All that. I'm not asking to get into that debate. But I will say this. If we were to all agree collectively as a society that the word itself, the word that Morgan Wallen used, and I used Kyle Larson as another example, is something that we need to expunge from our society altogether, then I think it would have already been done. However, you had two parallel tracks going on simultaneously. You had one track saying that anytime that a subject matter came up regarding race relations or whatever, that if we were trying to have a discussion point, that it was inappropriate for anyone like Matt Murphy or Dan Mandis or others who had not experienced or been a part of that culture or were in fact black, to use that word in any context whatsoever, be it academic or otherwise. Simultaneous to that, you had black culture seemingly embracing the word and empowering themselves through it in a lot of sections of black culture. So because you had those two parallel tracks going on, what you get is the confusion by 5281. And I don't doubt it's a sincere confusion. I don't understand why it's okay for the African American to use the word and it's not okay for a white person, for example, to use the word. Here's what I would say. It is neither important to me, and a matter of fact, I am sensitive to how it can be horribly offensive to others. I'm not in the business of worrying about offending people. I can't, not in our business. If Dan Mandis or Matt Murphy or Brian Wilson or Michael Del Giorno or anyone else doing what we do on a day-to-day basis, if we worried about every single thing that we said potentially offending one or two or three or four or eight people in the listening audience, we would never get a sentence out. We just have to be where we are, be comfortable in the positions that we take, and hopefully explain it in such a way where even if you disagree with it, you understand where we're coming from, we understand where you're coming from. That's what the First Amendment's all about. That's what talk radio is all about. But I think you have a lot of dishonest actors in this particular discussion. You have the gotcha people that are simply waiting for you to say the wrong thing so they can kill you, cancel-wise. I mean, they want to destroy you from a career perspective. I've long said the cancel culture operates in the same fashion as ISIS or the Taliban. The only difference is instead of actually wanting to kill you, they want to kill you from a career perspective. They want to destroy you from a perspective of you being able to earn a livelihood. That's their version of what a religious fanaticism like ISIS or the Taliban would want to do with you. They have to subjugate you into submission, and you have to bow before the altar of wokeness in this case. They have to convert you, so you have to convert to their way of thinking. You have to make them believe it, or they're going to destroy you. And in the religious fanatical world, that destruction is literally losing your life. In the cancel culture world, that destruction is losing your livelihood. So I would answer you this way, 5281. Are you able to explain this, why these younger guys just can – I get why someone like Morgan Wallen, who is as comfortable as he is with the friendships that he's created, with the circle group that he is surrounding himself with, that he hears his friend group potentially use the term from time to time, and he feels comfortable enough to do it himself. Well, I think Morgan Wallen learned that lesson, that there are people out there that are hell-bent on not knowing what's in his heart, but wanting to get after his wallet and destroy him that way. So I hope that in some fashion answers your question. It's 12:31. I know it's 12:31 because I'm getting the eyeball from the boss over here to my left. It's Super Talk 99.7 WTN. We're from California Closets. Come out and see us. Back in a moment. See ya.
California Closets. You've heard about the Walfus. You've mentioned the Walfus.
So it's all custom?
Commercials. What exactly is a Walfus? Here we are. Kurt, what is a Walfus?
So this will be your microphone. You don't need head. Well, stand. Yeah. If you want to
voice like you, bear with me.
if you want to wear headphones, you can. You don't have to.
So, well, yes, as a matter of fact, there is
Just hold the mic.
wall bed or an office, kind of Walfus.
Yeah. But if you want to wear these headphones, but slip those on, let me test the volume level for you. Does that sound all right?
Lock this when you're ready. You pull it down. You don't have to take anything off, as a matter of fact, because it just can't leave it straight down.
Good.
And boom,
There you go.
You've got your sleeping.
So what am I going to never hear myself talking?
You want to sleep on
You
a
will.
nice
You'll hear
queen-size
me.
bed.
And it'll cut
Go
up
through
some
the night. You don't have to make your bed, which is one of my favorite parts.
But if it throws, I mean, it'll be fine. If it throws you at all,
You're on the yellow mic.
You get to work for the day.
And there you have it, the Walfus. We are here till 3 o'clock.
Which yellow?
420 Cool Springs Boulevard. Murphy's on his way here as well. Thanks for listening
I
and
just got
watching
real
Super.
distracted, Kurt. You got a picture of my favorite human being.
Dolly?
Yes.
We're just, actually, we do a lot of work there.
I thought you saw the bourbon bar.
Oh yeah, that. No, that's the first thing I saw.
I got never ready. I'm good.
Are you ready? All right, it's Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Matt Murphy. I love getting out and about. I love what I do. I love being able to speak with you guys every day from noon until 3, being a part of an incredible team to include Dan Mandis, Michael Del Giorno, Brian Wilson, and everybody that works behind the scenes. And I love getting out and about and talking to the folks that really make the wheels go. Because I've always said this is what we do on radio, specifically on talk radio, is a three-legged stool. In order for us to get information out, hopefully entertain you, inform you, let you know what's going on in the world, we need three things. We need us, we need you, and we need folks like the gentleman that I'm about to introduce you to. Kurt Schusterman is the founder of The Feast here at California Closets, and we are pleased to be joined by him. Let's make sure that mic's on. You got his mic on there, Rich? It is it? Oh, well, I cannot hear him in that mic. Pull it real close. That's interesting. We'll get it. We'll figure out this radio thing one of these days, and then what do you think? Oh, there we go. No, not that one either. Here's what we're gonna do.
How's that?
Oh, hey,
All right,
hey!
Matt.
I told you we'd figure it out. Hey, it's good
You
to
don't
see
call,
you.
you don't write. Come on, man.
It's wonderful to meet you, first and foremost.
Thank you.
How long have you been doing this? Tell me from the beginning the story of California Closets.
So, I'm a recovering Fortune 500 guy. California Closets as a brand was started over 40 years ago, obviously in California. The franchise was purchased here in Nashville back in 1998. I purchased that franchise back in 2015. So we've been serving Middle Tennessee for over 2.5 decades.
So I guess I should ask the question that probably most people ask when they first walk in the studio. And, outside of seeing some of the incredible displays that you've got up here, I am certain that the question you get most often is, how'd you get the name?
California Closets. It's funny
Started in California?
Well, it started in California and started doing closets. And the irony is, being a local business, in fact, we're the largest local business in Nashville doing this thing.
Uh-huh.
And it's called California Closets. And the irony is that nothing's from California because we got a 26,000 square foot facility over in Nashville in the Sidco area. And only half the business is closets.
So it's, but the brand name. I mean, I know California Closets. Well, before I step through the door, I know the name. Talk to us about what sets you apart and how you service your customers in a level beyond. Because I've had the chance to talk to a few people since I got here around 10:30, and they sing your praises. What do you do that sets you apart?
As a local business owner, there's several things that are really important to us. But as a brand, the thing that separates us is the design. I mean, we're all about design and making sure that we have the latest, and that's what we're celebrating here, having the latest design fashions. We have people traveling the globe, making sure that we're on trend with the latest colors, the latest styles, everything organization. So there's that part of it from just a national brand perspective. But locally, to us, the most important thing is servicing our customers. People rave about the California Closets experience. If you go online and read the reviews, that kind of says it all, really, because we've got more than double the number of 5-star reviews than all the competitors combined.
And so you've been here for a while in Cool Springs,
Yes.
but you just redid the studio. Tell us a
Yes.
little about that.
So we've been in this location in Cool Springs for 10 years. It's the third time we've had a refresh. And the refresh is about having 8 different colors that are more on trend these days. We've got our wall fist bed, which we've talked about before, which is a desk and a pull-down wall bed, which is very exciting.
Hey, there's
for
a
people.
Murphy bed in there?
It's a Murphy
Do we
bed.
call it a Murphy bed?
We call it a Matt Murphy bed.
I like that. I like that. I might need one. You know, when I get in Dutch with the wife, I could put that in the garage, right?
Well, we call it the doghouse, too.
So I had no idea that there was a bed behind those shelves. That's pretty cool. What you've taught me just walking through, and by the way, you're welcome to come down. We're here till 3 o'clock, but all day long. It's a big, like, grand opening. They've got snacks. I noticed the snacks. I noticed no one's gotten into the bar area yet. I can change that around 3 o'clock.
Not that you can see.
No, not that anyone can tell. But it's so the average guy listening, we're thinking, okay, it's a closet, but it's more than that. A lot more than that.
Well, it's when you're trying to optimize the space. You want to get organized. When you're just buying a house, the builder's putting in the basic shelves and partitions. What we do, we go in and we specifically measure the closet. We measure the clothing. We measure the artifacts that you have in there. We do a whole wardrobe inventory. And then we design it in a 3D CAD software that matches exactly what the customer needs and wants.
So when folks walk into the Cool Springs location, what do you want them to experience? You want them to see the colors and the different styles and all the things that you can do, but then the experience moves to their house like you described.
Right. I think the first step is they can call us. That's what most people do.
Right.
Just call us or look us up online. They book a free in-home design consultation. So our designer will go out and call the customer back. We'll go and show up and do the measuring, talk to the customer about what they're trying to accomplish, what they like about their closet, what they don't like about their closet, or their entertainment center, or their garage, or their pantry, or their laundry room. We'll go away for a day or two and draw it up in our CAD software. They meet at the showroom so they can look at all the different displays and different finishes and get some more ideas. We present it up on the big screen TV, and we sit down at the table and collaborate with them. And we'll look at the design, and they'll say, yeah, I don't like that, change this, and they can click and change it right on the fly. Prices it automatically, and they can decide right then and there if they want to go forward.
Have you always had, since you've been a part of California Closets, you've always had CAD?
Yes, that's a key feature of our
I'm such
offering.
a nerd. I just wonder how they did it before we had computers that would assist us in figuring out all of these design techniques.
Well, back 40 years ago, they sure didn't, but at least for the past 8, we have definitely had CAD.
So what is the weirdest or wildest things that comes to mind that you've been asked to accomplish in a space?
Wow, that's a long list, man.
I'm here to ask the tough questions, Kurt. That's what I do for a living. I imagine in Nashville, and I understand there's a lot of things you can't say about certain clients that you have serviced. I get that. I'm not asking you to name names, but I bet you've done some pretty incredible closet features.
Well, it's fun because people come to us and they say, look, I just don't know what to do with this. I know it's not working. I want you to figure this out. So we have designers who this is what they do all day, every day. And they've been to, obviously, celebrities' homes. They've been to regular people's homes. So they can do the full gamut, whether it's just a little off-the-wall closet or, a $200,000 room with an entertainment center and a gun safe and everything else in between.
Well, and that's what I want to encourage people too. Just from my walkthrough, and you tell me if I'm saying anything wrong, Kurt, but don't think that you're budget limited. If you have a space and you want to improve the utilization of that space, come here and see what they can do. Because it doesn't have to be a big, lavish walkthrough type of thing. But you can help people create spaces that they are proud of, as opposed to those spaces that I know there are a couple of rooms in our house that the wife, every time somebody comes over, she shuts the door. Don't let them look in there. Right. You want to create a space where, hey, look at this closet feature that Kurt did for me at California Closet.
Yeah, it's really what they want. We say we design to the budget. We engineer it to the budget. Mm-hmm. If somebody's got a smaller budget and they just need some utilitarian value out of it and just make sure things are more organized, we can absolutely do that. If somebody wants to get a little bougie with it and dial it up with LED lighting and doors and drawers and everything else, we can do that too.
Well, I invite folks to come by. What are we doing here today? How would you describe what's going down today?
We call this a grand reveal. We've just, because we've been upgrading our finishes for the past few months, this is a way to show everybody the latest and greatest. So it's the finishes that are on trend. It's the new organizational items that are available now that weren't here before. LED lighting is the rage right now, so we've got all of our displays that show different elements of LED lighting.
I want to. Do I have time to do that? I think I do. I want to try something. I'm gonna try something, Kurt. This might be an app. All right, hold that, because I want to do something. I want to walk through. Kurt and I are going to leave the camera. If you're watching on Super Talk TV, just bear with me for a second, because Kurt and I are going to stand up and we're going to walk about. Because like what we have here, and I'll try to describe it so the folks on the radio can understand it. It's kind of an entryway, right? I mean, I'm coming in maybe from the garage or coming in. This is, maybe I got a mud room behind me, but right here is where we're going to hang coats and where we're going to drop some stuff, right?
It's a drop zone, we call
Right,
it. So
right.
again, it can be a lot of hooks so you can hang coats or backpacks, what have you. What you're also seeing here is this is something we're proud of. This is the latest, called a slim shaker. It's the hottest thing going right now. Everyone's familiar with the regular shaker. This is a slim shaker that's very popular. Open the doors and there's LED lighting that pops on.
Nice. And for those listening, you're opening a door. Imagine an LED light that's running running vertical the entire length of the closet area. That's pretty cool. That's nice.
There's no switch. You just close the door and it automatically shuts off.
Yeah, you don't have to worry about that. So if you got stuff in your hands, just pull it open. There you go. A little laundry hamper action.
Little laundry hamper. You just pull it out and it just tilts back.
And then as you go, you're highlighting different ways and different areas to utilize space. I noticed the bar area. I could not help but notice the bar area, Kurt.
It's a very exciting element. You've got stone countertops that we have a partnership with that we can put for people. I'm just trying to go over here and see it here. So you've got the LED lighting in here as well.
Hey, Kurt, what size are these shoes here? I mean, are those 12?
Could be. Is that
12s? Okay, well, you wouldn't miss those if I snag those, would you?
You could put them in the Souls for Souls bucket.
So you, I guess the entire life of California Closets has been more than closets, although that's a lot of what you do. But we mentioned the bar area. If you have a space that you don't like, I got a little entertainment center or whatever, got my television on top of it, whatnot, and I want to really make that pop in a man cave or in a great room for the family. That's the way to get it done, right?
You can definitely do a bar. We've just had people that have entertainment centers, and they've got a little console many times, and they say, look, I want something built in. I want to make it nicer. I want to hide the wires. So we come in and we measure, and we just design it that way.
Well, and not only that, I mean, when you leave your house, if you move, I mean, a California closet design of this nature, you're adding value to that house. There's no question.
We have so many real estate agents are referring us because they know that there's assurance that we can get it done, right? But they also know that when they put a California closet system in there, it's going to add value to the home. I mean, we hear it's 1% to 2% of the value of the home they'll get back when they put a California closet system in.
And as a guy that recently moved, I got to Nashville about 15 months ago, but the wife just got here about 3 months ago, and we decided to rent for a moment. Dan says we have to go back this way. We decided to rent for a hot minute. Well, as you're looking at rental properties, the disappointment in my wife's face when you open up the closet, right, is noticeable. And something like this, if you own your home, it's not only adding to your home experience, it's adding to the value of the house.
That's exactly
ultimately.
Right.
Well, Kurt, they made us come back to a home base. Look, it's a wonderful conversation. It's a wonderful showroom, and I so hope that everyone takes us up on our advice to come by and say hello to you and the rest of the team.
Thank you so much, Matt. Appreciate
Kurt,
it.
thank you. That's Kurt with California Closets. We're going to take a short time out. We'll be back in a moment. We'll get back into some of the activities going on in Washington, D.C. Joe Biden seems to think when he talks to his own folk, the Democrat Party, that the rest of us can't hear. But we most certainly can hear, and I'll tell you what he had to say last night about the Second Amendment. That's coming up next on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Hi, I'm Paul Winkler. I've had a financial radio show on WTN for over 20 years. But before that, for about the first 10 years of my career, I worked for a big investment firm. The name of the game was selling and getting assets under management. Then I was introduced to evidence-based investing, driven by academic research and not the sales process. Two big revelations. One was that investing in the stock market wasn't a gambling adventure. I had never thought about it that way. Think about when we invest, you're just gambling your money away and just throwing it into the casino. Well, investing in stocks is really just owning companies. And you think about some of the most successful people in the world are business owners, and you get to be a business owner when you invest in the stock market. It allows you to be part owner of the most successful companies in the world. The second had to do with how you were investing in those companies. In my former role, I was taught that my job was to use my skills to predict the future. Oh, crystal ball, what stocks or market segments are going to do best in the near future? If you listen to investing news sources and investment advisors, you'll find that making predictions is the rule rather than the exception. One recent study shows that 93% of professional managers underperformed the market over the past 15 years in their selection of large U.S. stocks. And it was over 95% that underperformed with small companies. Did you know that you could be tremendously successful as an investor without predicting the future? I believe the first step is education. However, it can't be just any education. We will help you understand what you're doing with your investments, why you're doing it, and what the basics are behind how things work. Then we make recommendations. I want you to be completely confident before you do anything. If that sounds like a winning game plan, set up a free 15-minute phone call at any of our 10 offices around Nashville. Go to paulwinkler.com to schedule a call today.
It's Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Matt Murphy with you on this Thursday edition. My final day of the week. It's Thursday, my Friday. And before you get it, don't you super texters get in on me. It's my first day off. Well, I guess last Friday I was a day off technically, but I was in training. I was with the Tactical Emergency Casualty Care course, but I'm taking tomorrow off. Cameron Smith, you'll be in good hands with Cameron from noon until 3 on Super Talk 99.7 WT, and Brian Wilson coming up at 3 o'clock. Of course, we're live at California Closets, 420 Cool Springs Boulevard. Stop by and say hello to us. We'd love to speak with you and say hello in a direct fashion. Check online there, Rich. I'm in and out in my headphones. It might just be my headphones, but I'm in and out in the headphones. All right, so Joe Biden apparently believes that when he talks to Democrats, only Democrats can hear him. In a speech that he gave yesterday, he announced to all that were listening that he is planning to ban, quote, assault weapons and high-capacity magazines come hell or high water. Biden made the comments at the Democrat Caucus Issues Conference in Baltimore, Maryland, last night. I know it may make some of you uncomfortable, but that little state above me, Delaware, has one of them, has the highest rate, one of the highest rates of gun ownership, he said, babbling. But guess what? He continued, babbling. We're going to ban assault weapons again come hell or high water, and high-capacity magazines when we did it last time to reduce mass deaths. Biden comments comes. I find this interesting that this story that I'm quoting from comes from Fox News. Even Fox News allows themselves to fall into the narrative trap. And here's what I mean. Here's the sentence. Biden's comments come after 3 students were killed February 13th at Michigan State University, injuring another 6 people. The suspected gunman, and they name him, I'm not, later killed himself before police could arrest him. One day after the shooting at Michigan State University and 5 years after a gunman killed 14 students as well as 3 educators at Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School in Parkland, Florida, the Biden administration announced the Justice Department would give $231 million to states to be used for crisis intervention. First, $231 million. Remember, that's fake money. When the federal government gives money to the states, that's always fake money because they borrow it against the good faith and credit of the United States. Secondarily, what they don't tell you is that the Michigan State University case, the man used a pistol. He used a handgun. He did not use a long gun. More on that coming up in the second hour of the Matt Murphy Show as we continue. We broadcast from California Closets in Cool Springs. Come on out and see us. Matt Murphy Show, Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
From ABC News, I'm Michelle Franzen. In Pennsylvania, the man authorities say hid explosive components inside his checked bag at Lehigh International Airport Monday makes his first court appearance later today. ABC's Pierre Thomas says the man remains in FBI custody.
There's an intensive investigation into the background of the suspect, Mark Muffley. So far, they have found no obvious ties to terrorism, but they're trying to find out everything they can about his background. So they're interviewing friends and associates, checking to see whether he had a social media footprint.
Russia's war in Ukraine and food security were at the top of talks today at the G20 Conference of Foreign Ministers in New Delhi, India. Secretary of State Antony Blinken also met on the sidelines with his Russian counterpart and called on Russia to withdraw from Ukraine. Blinken says he also discussed the standing prisoner exchange proposal by the U.S. to release former Marine Paul Whelan.
I also raised the wrongful detention of Paul Whelan, as I have on many previous occasions. The United States has put forward a serious proposal. Moscow should accept it.
Whelan has been held in Russia since 2018. A new report about the potential dangers of contamination when feeding newborns.
The CDC examined 2 babies hospitalized for meningitis over the last 2 years. One died, the other recovered after 3 weeks of antibiotics. Both tested positive for Chronobacter sakazaki. The CDC linked one case to formula, but since a sealed version of that same formula did not have the bacteria, a dirty scoop or utensil likely caused the contamination. The other was linked to a contaminated breast pump. The CDC says all infant feeding items should be cleaned regularly. Brian Clark, ABC News.
In South Carolina, the jury is at lunch following closing arguments in the double murder trial of Alec Murdaugh. The judge will deliver instructions to the jury, and they could begin deliberations later today. The disgraced attorney denies killing his wife and son in 2021. You're listening to ABC News.
All right, here we are. Here we go. It's a Thursday edition of the Matt Murphy Show. Hour number 2 starts right now. Thank you for being with us. Whatever time you're able to give us, we're certainly appreciative of that. You can also check us out on Super Talk TV. That's up and running on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and Twitch. We are on location with the television side of it as well as the radio side, obviously, at California Closets, 420 Cool Springs. Already several of you have stopped by and said hello, and we appreciate that. We appreciate you coming out, and we're here for the duration until 3 o'clock this afternoon, and we appreciate you coming by and saying hello. You can check out some of the incredible closets they've got at California Closets as well. We've also got a lot to get into with regard to the General Assembly, and this might be the first time that I've ever done this. So I'm on location in California Closets. My guest that we have normally on Thursdays at this time is Representative Scott Sapicki, and Scott's, I don't know if he's sitting in my chair in the studio, but he's definitely in the studio. And do you have our music ready for Sapicki there, Bill? Hello, Bill. There it is. There it is. I don't know how Representative Scott Sapicki managed to convince us that this should be his walk-up song, but here it is. What's up, Scott? How are you?
Well, I was talking to Bell while you were on the radio. We were talking about a coup d'etat in the studio here, and just kind of cut you off, and I'll just run the next 2 hours for you.
Are you in my seat? Are you sitting in my seat, Sapicki?
No, it's got a lump in the bottom, and I can't figure out what that's from.
Well, we blame Dan Mandis for that lump, so I only say that because he's sitting right beside me. Well, I guess I should just ask you, we'll dive right into the General Assembly. I mean, what's going on? I know your world of focus, your sphere of focus is primarily on the issues involving education. Any progress since we talked last week?
Well, there is, but if you want to, before we get into that, let me talk about three bills that passed that may have some significance to them. How's that?
Okay, sounds good.
So the Biden administration and in conjunction with different departments talked about, remember, that possibly banning stoves because of the emissions that they give off up in New York. And so we just got done passing House Bill 483. It's known as the Tennessee Freedom to Cook Act. It was approved by the Tennessee Chamber today. It also passed the Senate earlier this month. And what the legislation protects is Tennesseans from potential government overreach that could limit the types of appliances they can use in their homes. So it would put an overlay there to make sure that the federal government can't come in and say, hey, you know what? You can't have gas stoves anymore.
No, well, I don't know if this is why you got into public service, Scott, to protect us against the federal overreach into our kitchens, actually trying to prohibit us from cooking on stoves of our choosing. But may I be the one, if not the first, to say thank you for protecting us against the federal government so they can't take away our gas stuff. I mean, right, because the Biden administration got kind of caught looking into this.
Correct.
They then claimed they weren't really doing it, but now we know that they are actually trying to. They say they're not really doing it, but they are really doing it, right?
That's correct, because what they want to do is they want to put EPA standards on the emissions of stoves now. So your existing stove would be fine, but when it wears out, you're going to have to buy a stove that is under EPA emission standards, which was never, ever, ever contemplated in the past. And so we just put some overlays in there and protections for the state of Tennessee, a little preemptive strike to say, no, you're not going to do that in Tennessee.
All right, good for you guys. All right, you've got one or two more for me?
House Bill 75 was just approved by the Chamber on Monday. What that does is it gives the district attorneys the ability to grant immunity for people that have drug overdoses. Instead of having to prosecute them because they have a drug overdose, it allows them to give them immunity so they can get into drug rehab programs and get the help that they need. It was basically limited to a first offense, and we've expanded it to subsequent offenses. So if somebody goes into drug rehab and they lapse and they overdose, they have the ability to get some leniency here to go back into the drug addiction programs and help them out.
You know, I've long, and I don't know where you are more broadly on the issue of drug courts or drug interdiction that doesn't involve incarceration, but I've long made the argument that it is a better policy all the way around to try to get drug users and those that find themselves addicted to these horrible illicit drugs that we can find on the streets to get them the help that they need. It's going to benefit everyone in the long run, in my opinion. Scott, do you agree?
Absolutely. We have a very good drug court down in Murray County that gets to people that gets the help that the people need so that they can continue to live their lives and continue to be able to be income earners for their families and keep families together, and started getting them into incarceration where you start to see these families fall apart. So, yes, I'm a big supporter of drug courts, as long as we don't get to the point where the drug courts are so expansive that we got people that are doing things that probably should be in prison because they've violated a severe law. Make sense?
All right, and you got me one more?
Very important bill today, extremely important in the state of Tennessee. House Joint Resolution 23, naming pumpkin pie as the honorary state symbol for the 113th General Assembly. Now, I know you're laughing, but let me explain this to you, and it's a great civics lesson, okay? This idea came from a resolution from a fourth grade class in Madisonville Intermediate School in Monroe County. And as part of their social studies curriculum, the students learned about the different state symbols and realized that there is no state pie for Tennessee. So the class took a vote, and they voted to send a resolution that a state pie, quote unquote, would be the pumpkin pie. Now, Bell asked me if it included whipped cream. I do not have that. That would be an amendment to this bill, Bell. But no, it is basically that for the 113th General Assembly, which we're in right now, the honorary state pie for the state of Tennessee is the pumpkin pie.
You know, you bring up a very important subject, Scott. Why do we have so many state songs in the state of Tennessee? Can we not just pick one, right? We have, I think I learned last year, we have like 12 state songs in the state of Tennessee, and I assume that's because we can't decide on one. We don't want to throw the baby out with the bathwater, so to speak, when it comes to our state songs.
Well, I think you're missing the point there is we have such great songwriters here in the state of Tennessee that they write such good songs here that it's so hard to pick one because they are so meaningful to the people of the great state of Tennessee, and so that's why we have multiple ones recognizing the ability of our citizens to craft great songs. Like I said, I'm sitting in Music City, right?
You know, Scott, it occurs to me as you're answering the song question, I'm thinking back about the pumpkin pie thing, and I get it. I get that you've got the children on your side on this issue. I understand that.
Mm-hmm.
You're just lucky that you're talking to a pumpkin pie man. You knew that. You've seen me in person, and you knew that I'm a guy that loves some pumpkin pie, so that I wouldn't come at you. If I were a pecan man, or goodness forbid, a coconut cream guy, boy, this conversation would go a different route.
You're killing me. So,
all right. So now I want to be serious with you for a moment on the state, the naming of the state stuff for a minute. Yes. I tried this in Alabama, and I thought, and sadly the lawmakers in the state legislature, every time I would bring this up, they thought I was kidding, and I guess maybe in part I am, but I don't. There is not a state in the union that has the domesticated dog as their state animal or their state mammal. And I'm looking at our Tennessee's state mammal, I think, is the raccoon.
Mm-hmm.
And look, no disrespect to the raccoon lovers in the listening audience, but I want to start a movement to turn the state mammal in Tennessee to is there another animal that has been better for mankind than the domesticated dog, Scott?
You mean like Smokey, right?
Well, sure. See, I see what you're doing there. Yes, like Smokey.
Like Smokey. As opposed to the bulldog, right?
Well, I mean, we don't have to get down into particulars about which breed of animal. We're just saying that those first responders, those canines that assist our police officers. Mm-hmm. Sadly, we rely on dogs as search and rescue animals from time to time. That's the type of dog I'm talking about.
Comfort animals too.
Yes, there you go. Some of the dogs that have been trained to be able to sniff out ailments in people. I think there are cancer sniffing dogs now that we see across the United States. I'm just putting a bug in your ear since you mentioned pumpkin pie.
Well, we have set a precedent now in the General Assembly making an honorarium. So what I would suggest you do is find your local elementary school and get them to craft a resolution for their representative and then to bring that to the General Assembly.
All right, I just want to talk to the audience for a second, Scott. Everybody, what Scott just said to me basically was, if a loudmouth talk show host on Super Talk 99.7 WTN brings this up, we're going to laugh at him. But if you can get a group of school children behind you on this effort, Murphy, maybe you've got a shot after.
Education is the key to success.
All right, I'll tell you what we'll do, because I don't want to get into the education piece and then have to interrupt you with a break. Belle, if you don't mind, it's 1:15. Let's go ahead and take our break early. Scott Spicky in studio. I'm on location at California Closets. When we come back, we will talk about education. It's my understanding we had some conversation in the House Education Instruction Committee about testing in the state of Tennessee, and we'll find out where we are with regard to education more broadly. I'm at California Closet. Scott's back in studio at Super Talk 99.7 WTN. All righty, Super Talk 99.7 WTN, California Closets, located at 420 Cool Springs Boulevard. Just a flurry of activity inside, outside, throughout the showroom. Come out and see their incredible showroom. It's amazing to me that they can pack as much in this in relatively small space that they can. But, that's why they have the Murphy bed right behind me. Matt Murphy sitting right in front of the Murphy bed. Later on in the third hour, I might try to broadcast Matt Murphy from the Murphy bed. Be that as it may, Representative Scott Sapicki is back in studio. We're talking about action going on in the General Assembly. I'm looking, Sapicki, I'm looking at the state animal, and I got the state wild animals, the raccoon, we have a state amphibian. I don't know if you know the state amphibian. It's the cave salamander.
Mm-hmm.
These are the important things that we need to tackle in the general. You know what? When we seriously get down to tackling some of these state creatures, I'll shake every one of your hands, because that means we've solved all of the hard stuff like education in the state, right?
We will take those up as soon as we are number one in the country in education.
Talk to me about where we are. I saw a story where one of the testing vendors, I think it's Pearson, testified in the House Education Instruction Committee, talking about the TN Ready test. How familiar are you with this, and what can you tell us about it?
Well, one of the things that we wanted to do was gain a better understanding of how our TCAP, our end-of-course tests are created, how they are looked at and validated, and then how they're given, and how the data is assimilated and sent back to our teachers and our students. And so we, about 4 or 5 years ago, we hired the testing vendor called Pearson. Pearson is probably the largest testing vendor in the entire world. They are huge. They do, I think it's 27 states that they do their end-of-course testing. Tennessee is one of those. Since we have brought Pearson on board, the issues that we have had with our previous vendors on online testing have all vanished. We are expanding right now. This year in May, we will be testing high school and middle school now. We'll be doing electronic. Our elementary will stay paper, and for my understanding, that will probably remain in place, where we will keep paper testing for the early kids, because that's what they're most familiar with. But they came in and talked about how they create the tests and how they engage Tennessee teachers to help create questions, look at questions, make sure that the questions align to our standards, and make sure they are testing the things that our kids will be able to understand and know, make sure that they're grade level appropriate. And then the vendor, Pearson, will put those together and composite them into a test. And then once again, it'll go back to those teachers groups and look at them to make sure that they are asking the right types of questions of our students. And those teachers do have the ability to bump any question that they think is inappropriate or doesn't address the standard properly. And then they're rolled out. And we are working right now. We are 2 years away, roughly, from having enough questions in our question bank that at the end of the year, when we have our TCAP test, one of the things our teachers have been begging for is a complete release of those tests, so that teachers can study the questions and understand how they're approaching the standards and asking questions to help them better educate our kids. And we're about 2 years away from that happening in Tennessee, which will really be a good tool for not only our parents, but also a very good tool for our teachers.
I think I'm the perfect person, if I do say so, to ask you about these things, because I am so ignorant of a lot of it. I'm being serious, because I don't have any kids. So I'm ignorant of so much of this. And so I ask probably the more simplistic questions, Scott, but I think it's important that we kind of back up and review. How much communication is there between the teachers who are in the classroom and the testing? I guess that's exactly what you're talking about now, because it would occur to me that they might, if there's not a constant refresh of communication with regard to what the test expects the student to know versus what the curriculum being taught in the classroom is, then it could be like two ships passing in the night a little bit.
That is correct. Now, normally our standards don't go through review but every 6 years. Now, there's a bill that's running through the General Assembly to increase our standards stability to 8 years. So there won't be a new review on our standards for the difference of math, science, social studies, and English language arts. So here's where Pearson comes in. We are currently going through the math adoptions. So now what Pearson will do is they'll look at the new standards versus the old standards. They'll figure out what has changed, and then they'll look at the test questions and see, okay, these test questions need to be thrown out. These need to be put in. And once they do that, Then they convened the teachers again to come in from Tennessee. Now, these are not teachers from all over the country. These are teachers from Tennessee to come in to look at the questions and make sure that the new test now still aligns to the standards as were given by the Standards Review Committee. It's a very detailed process, and here's the interesting part. The third grade test, which everybody's concerned about so much right now, when we asked Pearson, in the other 27 states that you give a test to, how similar are they? Because they're third graders, right, Matt? It's not really different kind of subject material. And they said the vast majority of the test across many states based off the standards is pretty much we're testing the same kind of things. There is some uniqueness to the Tennessee portion of it that even if the kids did not pass any of the uniqueness of the Tennessee portion and scored very well on the other side, they would have all their foundational basics downs, and they would be on track to move on to the next grade level.
There was a question asked of the individual that was testifying for Pearson, and I guess she was asked to compare Tennessee standards to national standards. Is that an important question to you, Scott?
It is, because we're trying to figure out, 50, 60, 70 years ago, Matt, the kids that graduated from our high schools pretty much stayed in Tennessee. There really wasn't much transient movement around the country. Well, now, because of the competition and because of people being able to move and be fluid, we got to make sure that when our kids graduate Tennessee, not only do they know the foundational basics, but they know the basics so that they can compete in other parts of the country for employment. So now that's where the national part comes in, is our test aligning to national norms? What's very interesting is you're talking about the NAEP test. When you look at our test in Tennessee, how kids are testing on it versus the NAEP, the results are almost identical. So our Tennessee test is about the same as the national NAEP test, which means we have a very good aligned test to national standards.
So why you mentioned the 8-year review. Why 8? I mean, that seems like a long time. I mean, are you comfortable with that? I mean, and I could be completely off base, but it just seems like that's a long time. Is it cost prohibitive to do the review?
Well, no, but what happens is when we do the 6-year review cycle, about the time the new standards come out, the teachers have to learn the new standards, learn what they're required to teach, and start to develop the being comfortable with those new standards. It takes about 2 or 3 years for a teacher to become fully vested and understand the nuances of all the new standards. Well, in the 6-year review cycle, they're starting the process to get ready to replace them already. So what we do is we go to 8 years. It gives that teacher an extra 3 years to really dig down into these standards and make sure that they can teach all the depth, knowledge, and understanding for our students. So not only are they learning the basics of the standards, they're learning how to defend the why of the standards, which is very important for knowledge.
In an unrelated question, before I let you go, Scott, because I know you're very busy, and I appreciate your time weekly.
Yeah, you're going to bump me because the speaker's coming. I know you.
No, this has nothing to do with the fact
Whatever, you
that
got the big guy
Doug
coming.
just stopped. Yeah, no, he's coming by, Scott. The speaker actually is coming out here today, which I thought was kind of nice.
Well,
yeah.
I still got work to do. I can't leave.
Don't
tell him I said that.
I certainly am not going to commit to not doing that. See, that was a double negative. The House Criminal Justice Committee, they undertook a proposal by which we bring back execution by firing squad. And this feels, and maybe I'm wrong. Maybe the difficulty in securing the drugs needed to engage in lethal injection have become so difficult that we need to look at alternative means to make sure that we continue to do the will of the people of Tennessee, and that is to, ultimately, if a crime is so heinous that the only recommended justice is death, that we need to be able to do that. I mean, is this a solution in search of a problem, or do we really need to explore these types of things?
Well, that is a very tough topic to get into because you're talking victims and you're talking prisoners and you're talking justice. And it's very hard to, and even if you execute somebody, it doesn't bring the loved one back that's lost.
That's right.
They're gone. We've had all these issues with lethal injection. They're trying to figure this out and solve the problems with that. Under state code right now, there is no other alternative to it. There is no other alternative. And so when a court of law says death, they're bound to carry that out somehow. So how do you do that? And one of the options has always been firing squad in the past or electrocution. There is no easy way to talk about this, Matt, because you're talking about ending a life.
Mm-hmm.
But normally you're talking about ending a life because that individual took a life or lives of other people. So they've totally disregarded the law.
Mm-hmm.
And by a jury of their peers through multiple appeals, correct, that they've determined that, yes, the only reconciliation for the heinousness of this crime is the forfeiture of one's life. And it should be a very serious subject that we take up. We should make sure that we are exploring all the nuances of this. That's why I stay in education, because these things are very, very difficult to discuss. We have enough problems in education, and Matt, here's what we're trying to do. We're trying to solve those problems in the criminal justice system by educating people so they have other options besides crime. That's our goal.
No, and I get it, and I appreciate you being laser focused on the issue, and I appreciate you being on a weekly basis to talk about issues involving education. All right, before you go, an alert super texter brings up this excellent point. I hate it when the super texters destroy my argument, but they do it on occasion, Scott. Said, Matt, although I love dogs as much as the next guy, the raccoon is probably the state mammal in Tennessee because it's a link to Davy Crockett and the coon skin cap. That makes a lot of sense.
We understand you're new to Tennessee, and we're trying to educate you what it means to be a Tennessean, okay? And we have some patience with you, but eventually we will run out with you.
I haven't brought up Wisconsin once,
well,
and here you go coming after me.
But no, we are in full swing, point. So it's going well. But yeah, you know what? There's a man coming on after me that you could bring this topic up with him about a state animal. And I'm sure Speaker Sexton could go into a lot more detail than I can.
I think he's got the gavel from time to time, and he might be able to make some action
He does wield it, too.
Scott, thank you so much. We'll talk to you next week.
See you next week.
And there's Representative Scott California Closets, 420 Cool Springs Boulevard. Stop by and see us. Speaking of, Cameron Sexton will be stopping by. He is the Speaker of the House, and we look forward to that conversation. It's coming up. It's the Murphy Show on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. All right, here we are. Here we go. It's the Matt Murphy Show, Super Talk 99.7 WTN at California Closets, 420 Cool Springs Boulevard. Swing by and say hello. You're invited. All right, so we've got a lot of people. I mean, there's a lot of activity going on, as you might expect with any remote broadcast that happens. Thanks to Scott Sapicki. He was the smart one. He stayed out of the scrum. But Cameron Sexton is he doesn't fear a lot of this type of activity, considering that he herds cats all the time as Speaker of the House in the General Assembly. He is on his way, and he'll be here before the show is done, and we'll talk to him about activities going on at the gavel as Speaker of the House in the General Assembly. Until then, we have welcomed to the microphone Charity, who, it's my understanding, is a celebrity chef. So she's going to make us empowered to eat good, healthy food that we're going to absolutely love. Is that right? That's my understanding.
Can you travel with me and
Come
do my
on.
intro?
I'll do anything you want. I mean, because you're a rock star. I see everywhere you go, everyone in the room follows. There's probably a reason for that. It's because of your wonderful smile and your great attitude.
Oh, I'd like to think that. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Okay, so tell us what I mean, how does one become a celebrity chef? What did you do? I mean, did you study? Do you just make up business cards? What are you doing?
No, it's just being passionate and persistent about whatever that you love to do. And when those two come together with my third P, which is purpose, then this beautiful thing evolves, and you start getting messages from, Miley Cyrus and
Holy
NFL
moly.
players saying, hey, can you cook for me too? And I couldn't make this up. It's just, I didn't plan it. If you would have told me I was cooking this way, before I would have said you're smoking crack. But
Hold on a second, Charity. I've seen Miley Cyrus. She's not eating very much. What are you cooking, Miley Cyrus?
Well, when she was vegan, I was preparing vegan meals, but they weren't like salads or anything. It was like comfort foods, like really dense food, like mac and cheese and vegan fried chicken and dumplings. And I just made all of our favorite foods, and I just switched them out with great ingredients.
So you have to walk slowly with me, because I'm a dunderhead from Georgia, right? So I have to go slowly. So when you say comfort food and vegan, for somebody like me, I mean, my grandma made the best vegetables on the planet. And I didn't know when I was a kid, because I loved corn, butter beans, I loved black-eyed peas. I mean, all of that, right? And I thought hey, I'm special. I love vegetables. I didn't know that she had this big thing of bacon grease right beside her. You know what I'm saying?
And ham hock.
And everything going on in it. Yeah. So for me, comfort food and vegan does not necessarily go together, but you're saying it can.
It can. I have a lot of sorcery that I do in the kitchen, and that's what I tell people. Because, I have things that, I make collard greens. My grandmother's Creole. I mean, I make gumbo, and I make fried chicken, and people are like, okay, I know you don't eat meat, but I feel like I'm eating meat, tastes like meat, it smells like it. What am I eating? And it's just being really educated in what's out there. There's plants that mimic everything that you eat. There's plants that mimic lobster. There's plants that mimic crab. And I mean, there's an oyster mushroom, and once you batter it with Cajun seasoning and fry it, it tastes like chicken.
Right, so, but there's also, I would make the argument that there's also, walk with me, there's also chicken.
Yeah.
And lobster.
Yeah.
And so are you exclusively vegetarian or vegan, or do you do it all?
Nope.
Or?
So I actually graduated from a Le Cordon Bleu program in Los Angeles, and I did come from a background of making everything, like the versions of butter makes everything better, like putting pata butter and everything. But I evolved in understanding that if I have a technique and I have education and I understand what food is supposed to do, food is supposed to fuel you. Mm-hmm. Food is supposed to make you feel better, think better, be better, like all the way down to your skin. I could look at people's skin and could tell they have a really bad diet.
Mm-hmm. I see you. I see you over there, Charity. You're looking at me. You're judging me.
No, I'm not.
You're thinking.
I'm not in a judgmental seat ever.
Murphy likes donuts. I hear you. I see.
Ever. Well,
No, I mean, but yeah, you're right. I mean, obviously, I mean, I'm a big believer in, incomes dictate outcomes, right?
Yes.
And with food, I mean, I talk about a program that I'm on, LT360, all the time. It's more of a lifestyle program,
Yes.
but it's all about incomes and outcomes,
Yes.
right? And how if you intake bad things, you can't expect good results.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I talk to people all the time that has chronic migraines, chronic inflammation, chronic back pains, like heart disease. And it's getting younger and younger, especially here in America. And I do not have I'm going to clarify, I do not have an all or none approach, because I know that there are some people in this world that doesn't work for. So my job is to educate you and to give you something that at least you could try once a day, once a week. And if I've done that and I planted that seed and you're like, hey, let me think about my wellness sometimes, I think I'm winning.
So I'm fascinated the aspect of what you do on a day-to-day basis that led you to cooking for some of the stars. I mean, does that just happen through word of mouth or happenstance?
It was word of mouth. It was word of mouth. The funny thing is my husband is an ex-Titans player, and it happened by me sending my husband food to the locker room. And he would pop open those containers, and it would be like black bean and sweet potato enchiladas and Spanish rice and slow-cooked black beans. And everyone's like, wait, hold on. What is that? Why does it smell so good? It doesn't look like our food. And it gave him a moment to kind of educate people. Oh, I'm eating this kind of way because I'm lowering my inflammation and I want to improve my performance. Well, who doesn't want to do that when you play in 100% injury-prone sport?
Right.
Who doesn't want to
Right.
do that? And a lot of guys have nagging injuries 365. And if I told you there's something that could help that, you're going to try it. And so it started that way, and it would be like 2 to 3 guys like, hey, let me jump on this real quick and see what it does for me. And guys, it was like your brains were exploded on how much energy they were getting by eating like this only for a week. And it just kept growing and growing and growing and growing. And next thing you know, I'm cooking for 20 people on the team.
Charity, can I ask you a very vulnerable question?
Oh, please.
Who's your husband?
Derek Morgan.
Oh, see, there you go. See, I now I'm putting all these things together in my head. So, I mean, what's the most exciting or exotic thing that you've gotten to cook? You don't have to tell me the celebrity, because I understand that, some of that is, on the down low. But what are some of the wilder things that you've experimented with in the kitchen for your celebrity?
It's funny
customers?
because like everyone knows that I'm a very approachable chef where I like to make you feel empowered. So I might get a text from Miley at 2 a.m. that says, hey, I haven't had chicken and dumplings since I was vegan. And literally that morning I woke up and I was really
And you just figured this out?
And I figured it out. It's actually in my cookbook, and I talk about that story about how this recipe came to be because she said that she wanted chicken and dumplings. And so I created this recipe for her. And then I've had NFL players or some guy that's maybe high or drunk that texts me, have you ever thought of making a oatmeal cookie, but can you stuff it and then fry it? I literally got that text before, and I'm like, you know what? I'm game. Let me try it.
No, you should send these people a text saying, listen, maybe sleep this through. And not sleep it off, just sleep it through.
Think about this in the morning.
Call me in the morning, and if you're still really invested in this project, we'll do something with it. But I feel like maybe there's something else going on that's causing this question, right?
Yeah, but
I'm trying to remember the tight end. I'm embarrassed that his name's slipping my mind. He was a tight end for the Atlanta Falcons, and he came out as vegan. This is several years ago. He's a commentator now on CBS, and I can't get it. It's not.
Tony Gonzalez.
Tony Gonzalez. Thank you, Rich.
Yes.
And at the time, this is maybe 10 years ago.
Yeah.
When he
thought he was off
talked,
his rockers.
like, how in the world can you compete at that level against the best athletes in the world and not consume, certain types of protein?
Right.
And it was just completely foreign to us. Not so much anymore.
Yeah, well, there has been people that have taken out years to do the work for us. And this is a shameless plug because I'm in this documentary as well. But the Game Changers alone dispels a lot of that. And when you start looking at like elite athletes and what they're fueling their body with, it's not steaks. It's
Right,
not steaks.
right.
It's the fact that Tom Brady eats a majority plant-based diet that doesn't have any nightshade vegetables or products in it, which is like your bell peppers, your eggplants, because there is some controversy
Can I get you to pause
Yeah,
for just a
yes.
second? Tom, Charity, just me and you talking.
Yes.
Tom Brady.
Yes.
He's from another planet, right?
Yes,
He's an
he
alien.
is.
He's an alien.
He is. 100%.
There's zero chance that you can perform at that level
Yeah,
at the age of
he's
the
just a different human being
He really
overall.
Is. I mean, but
he
in
does
all
the work
seriousness,
too.
It is
He didn't-
putting the work in.
I
yeah.
do believe in putting in the work, and he does it all the way down to how he recovers, how he sleeps. It's a science to
Right.
it. What is the temperature in the room when you go to sleep? Like if you read about his protocols and how he goes through his day, he is an alien, and not a lot of people are willing to do that work. And so that's why he reaps the benefits of being an echelon of a player because he puts
That's
in
how
the
you
work.
get to be the GOAT, right?
Yes.
That's how you get to be the GOAT.
100%.
Is this your food around the corner?
No.
No.
No, sir.
How can people find out more about you?
I have a website, CharityMorgan.com. I'm on Instagram, CharityMorgan.com. I have a fabulous book that was just released back in 2022. It's called Unbelievably Vegan. It's got some of the most fun recipes you would ever like. On the cover, I'm literally eating a huge tray of nachos with chorizo on it, and people cannot believe everything on that platter is vegan.
What are you doing at California Closets?
I'm building houses right now. Because that was the segue of understanding that, like, when I build my house, and I told my husband and I told the architect, we're building a house around my kitchen. I don't care what room matters most. We're going to build this first and then build the other the other components. And I'm a strong believer that builders don't cook because none of their kitchens, you could look at a $10 million house or a $2 million house. The kitchens are crap. They're all crap. And so I was very intentional on building a beautiful home with a beautiful kitchen and an amazing, efficient pantry. And that's where California Closets come in and building all these systems for me.
You are never, ever, ever allowed to talk to my wife about building a kitchen because we're renting right now. We've been in town for about 15 months, and so we're looking to find a place or to build. And she's very much like the kitchen comes first. Everything else is I would agree with that. It's the heart of the home.
Living rooms
it's the heart and soul of the home, isn't it?
Yes, it is 100%.
Well, look, it took me a long time. I'm 49 years old, right? It did not bother me, Charity, when I realized I was no longer cool. It bothered me a little bit when I realized I never was. So when I meet a cool person, you are so cool. Thank you for spending time with a fuddy-duddy like me. I love your jacket. That is, I don't even know how to describe that. It's like a short sleeve. I don't know. It's
trench
so
coat.
cool. It's so cool. It's a short sleeve. It's a sleeveless trench coat that just, it works. You know it works. You don't need some dork over here on talk radio to tell you that. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Charity Morgan, everybody. We'll be back in just a moment. It is 1:50 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Thank you so much for being with us on this Thursday, Friday, March 2nd. We're at California Closets, 420 Cool Springs Boulevard. We've got another hour to go. We're wrapping up hour number 2. Thanks to Charity Morgan for spending a little time with us. I had no idea who Charity was when she first sat down. I knew she was a celebrity chef, but the connection with she and her husband, former Tennessee Titan, of course, and their connection to Nashville is pretty cool, so it was good to talk with her. Belle said it was a great interview, except nobody wants to eat vegan food. Although, in her defense, I've never had her vegan food. So, I will say this, more and more NFL players or people that care about their bodies are going, I guess, at least a certain level of vegetarian. I'm a meat eater from way back, so that's not going to be me. Coming up in just a moment, Cameron Sexton. He is the Speaker of the House, of course, and he's stopping by. So gracious to stop by and see us at California Closets. He's going to be here in just a couple of minutes, and we're going to take up a number of matters with him. One thing that I imagine will get brought up, and obviously we don't expect that this will be a matter debated in the House, considering that it was defeated in the Senate, but Tennesseans will likely, those who support the concept of medical marijuana, will have to wait another year before any movement on medical marijuana is found in the state. All right, so first and foremost, I don't shy away from this. I know a lot of people are those that support the idea of using marijuana or cannabis, call it what you will, for medical purposes. They don't want to use the term marijuana anymore. They want to shade over that. And I think marijuana is a perfectly acceptable term to use in this context. So I try to keep away from the quote-unquote cannabis talk, but I know those in that community that want to separate it from recreational to medical, they oftentimes use the term cannabis. One way or the other, it ain't happening. We talked to Janice Bowling earlier in the week. She brought Senate Bill 1104, and it failed in Senate Judiciary Committee by a vote of 6-3. I don't mind differing opinions on it. I just want those opinions to be educated as to the effectiveness of medical marijuana. This argument that it's not effective is an old argument it is not backed up by medical science anymore. And so if anybody argues that, they're just arguing out of bad faith or ignorance, one or the other. Cameron Sexton coming up for hour number 3 as we broadcast from California Closets on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
It is 2 o'clock. I'm Mac Maury with your top stories. Right now, 65 degrees and cloudy. Expecting some severe weather tomorrow, tomorrow morning, early morning, around 3 a.m. A wind advisory will begin there and go throughout the day on Friday. Gusts possible up to 55 miles an hour and a chance for a possible tornado or two in Middle Tennessee. We'll keep you updated with all that right here. Super Talk 99.7. Weather and traffic coming up just a few minutes. Before the Alex Murdaugh double murder trial goes to the jury, the prosecution challenging jurors to understand why the disbarred South Carolina lawyer lied for more than a year about being at the crime scene. Dave Packer.
After the defense rested, the prosecution delivering a final rebuttal in the Alex Murdaugh trial, addressing claims by the disgraced former attorney, prosecutor John Metters.
The defendant, who was also a part-time solicitor, is claiming that law enforcement didn't do their job. Listen to me, please. Didn't do their job while he is withholding and obstructing justice by not saying, I was down at the kennels.
Murdaugh admitted he was there only after video from the scene surfaced with his voice on it.
Here in Tennessee, News 2 says that a driver, a 51-year-old man, crashed into a pond on Rogers Lane in Lebanon. The man was driving a Dodge Ram headed west. When the car went off the roadway, went into a ditch, the vehicle kept going through fences until coming to a screeching halt in a shallow pond. And these collisions caused a small fire in the back of the vehicle. People nearby in the neighborhood didn't even know what had happened until Frankie, a dog, was barking at the scene. The man's condition right now is unknown. And that's the latest news. Weather's next. I'm Mac Maury, WTN News.
And here we are. Here we go. It is hour number 3 of the Matt Murphy Show. We're at California Closets. That's 420 Cool Springs Boulevard. Stop by and say hello to us. If you have the time, we'll be here for another hour. They're here all day. It's kind of their grand reopening at California Closets. They strip everything down and build it back from the bones up and show you some of the modern techniques and the modern cabinetry, if I said that correctly, that they have to go in your closet space, to go in your entertaining space, to go in your bar area, whatever you can imagine, whatever you can dream, they can customize it for you at California Closets. We're here till 3 o'clock. Cameron Sexton will be along in just a moment. He's up. You know what? Just because you're Speaker of the House doesn't mean that you don't hit that awesome Cool Springs Galleria traffic. And so Cameron is fighting with that. And he'll be here in just a couple of minutes. Already today, talking to a number of folks here at California Closets and about a number of issues. One of which I was just discussing during the break. The mischaracterization of what the governor is about to sign with regard to adult-themed performances has just reached a ridiculous pitch. I've seen headline after headline after headline, and I've noted many of them on my social media. By the way, speaking of social media, you're always invited to say hello to us on social media, on Twitter, on Facebook. We're also live on Super Talk TV. That is, we're just a month old. So for those of you wondering where all of this is going, the ability that we have in a month to broadcast live on Super Talk TV, brought to you by California Closets, I'm fascinated by that technology that is now available. So we just launched a month ago, starting at the beginning of February, and we were just born. And so now we're trying to crawl a little bit. And as we crawl, we get out and about. Now we're on Super Talk TV, even as we're out and about. So we appreciate those of you who choose to watch the show as opposed to listen to the show. Obviously, many of you still listening on Super Talk 99.7 WTN on the streaming applications that are available for us there as well. All right, so I digress for just a moment. Cameron Sexton stopping by in just a moment. So we'll just fair warning for you, Rich, to have to get that all set up as we get him situated during the segment. So there's a complete mischaracterization. I just want to go over. I know that most of you know this. I would dare say if you listen with any level of regularity to Dan or Michael or Matt or Brian, all of you know this. None of this is designed to stop adult performances of what are commonly referred to as drag shows in the state of Tennessee. What we have seen across the United States of America and what we have seen in a couple of instances in the state of Tennessee are some of these drag shows coming from 21 and up clubs and going to a school library near you. We saw in Chattanooga this happen, and as it happened, we were watching and wondering if anyone within the state, in any official capacity, was going to do something about it, and it was decided that they would. And so they created language and infused that language into our laws that stated that these adult-themed, sexually charged events, entertainment events, were not to be done in front of minors or minor children. And I applaud the effort on the part of the House and the Senate. They did their due diligence. There are those who want to scare the hell out of you to suggest that they're trying to prevent you from being able to go and watch a cabaret performance. There's some ridiculously suggesting that Bill Lee play acting in high school in some way excludes him from an ability to fairly and adequately judge these proceedings. It's just ridiculous, okay? And by the way, this is someone who was a theater major who wore a dress on stage. I was Queen Gertrude in Rosencrantz and Guildenstern are Dead. So trust me when I tell you, I know the difference between what they're eliminating in the state of Tennessee, what is expected that the governor will be signing sooner rather than later, and then what these rabble-rousers who are trying to create and cause confusion are trying to suggest. It's nonsense. We understand that it's nonsense. And with that in mind, I think, it's passed by the House and the Senate now. I believe that those two bills have come back together, and they are simpatico in terms of their language, and now they'll move on to the governor's desk. There's a number of pieces of legislation that we're still discussing. I love talking General Assembly politics with you, and I love speaking with Cameron Sexton, the Speaker of the House of Representatives. And as we are on 7, Rich is going to help us I'll tell you one of the benefits of being in Cool Springs at California Closets. And I think that the Speaker of the House, as we get him situated, is going to concur with me that you get much nicer chairs at California Closet than you do in the studios of Super Talk 99.7 WTN. We're joined by the Speaker of the House, Cameron Sexton. Before we say anything else, I want to thank you sincerely, because we didn't know that we would be here when you and I and Doug set up our visits together during the General Assembly. And I called Doug and said, can't do Friday because I'm off tomorrow. And you said, oh, let's move it to Thursday. And then I had to call back and say, hey, I'm not going to be in studio. I'm going to be on location. If y'all need to cancel, that's all good. And you said, no, of course not. Let's get out and, get out and about. Thank you for being as receptive as you are to the people of this state, and as consistent you are representing us as Speaker of the House.
Well, thank you. And Doug told me you were going to give me a closet. I thought that's where I thought we were coming.
I'm gonna work on that. We got a Murphy bed right behind us,
Oh,
so we can
awesome.
do.
Yeah,
we can do that.
it's I appreciate being out here, and it's good to get out from the Capitol on Thursdays and get around the community.
How are things going over there?
They're doing well. They're doing well. We're a little contentious today, and we have a contentious calendar on Monday night a little bit with Metro City Council. 40 to 20 bill will be up. So, but we're moving along. It's looking good.
Well, since you brought it up, is that bill expected to pass? I mean, we feel good about it in the House and the Senate?
Yeah, it'll pass by all Republican votes. I'm sure all Democrats will vote against it.
I've heard a lot of consternation. I've heard a lot of just general grousing about it. What I haven't heard is an argument that suggests that this would not ultimately be better for the people of Nashville.
Right.
I understand that, they're just doing this for retribution because of the RNC and all of that nonsense. But what I've not heard is a strong argument to suggest that the people of Nashville will not be better served by a more concentrated body in the metro.
Right. It's very hard not to say that will be the case. I mean, when you go from a medium-sized body or large body to a smaller body, you're going to have more representation. You're going to have people who are elected who have to build more coalitions to get elected, a broader base of support to get elected than currently. And so that just helps you for the caliber of people, I think, that you're trying to elect, which then will lead you, hopefully, to a more functional Metro Council.
I forget if we've talked about this, Cameron, in our conversations together, but if we have, maybe some listening were not privy to that conversation. Mayor John Cooper has now sent a letter to both the RNC and the DNC. I think we did talk about this. Were you excited to see that letter, that it seems that the city is more receptive to the idea of hosting a huge event? I mean, obviously the city's ready, willing, and able to host most events. A lot of us scratched our heads about the Metro Council's declining the opportunity to host the RNC, but the mayor is now using his authority to say, hey, we're welcoming and open to business for both the DNC and the RNC.
Yeah, I mean, we're happy. It just shows that Tennessee is a welcoming state, and we'll take Republican National Convention, the Democrat National Convention. We'll take either one of them here in Tennessee, and we'll give them a great event, and it'll be something that they'll want to come back to. The NFL was wanting to come back for a Super Bowl on the Titan Stadium because of the NFL draft and how that happened. And, there's funds to pay for that stuff. The Convention Center fund, it has over $100 million extra a year that the city has been sending to the general fund to pay for other stuff. So there's plenty of money even in the convention center to provide and pay for items like this.
All right, here's what I want to do, Bell. I want to take a short time out early because I want to solve a little technical thing that we've got going on our end. We'll do that, and we'll continue the great conversation with Cameron Sexton. Coming up in just a moment, we'll talk about choice lanes, talk about constitutional carry, talk about getting justice for our victims in the state of Tennessee in the best way possible. It's been brought up that we might possibly change the way that we exercise the ultimate punishment of execution in the state of Tennessee. We'll talk about all of these things with the Speaker of the House, Cameron Sexton, coming up in a moment on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. I can hear you. I'm here. Love you.
Love you too, Matt. What's going on in the nation's capital? That and more coming up 2:30 Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
That was for Mac Moore. That wasn't even for Bell. I hear you and I love you. Bell just starts yelling at me, and I know why. I don't blame him, but Mackie yells at me. When I'm
that's
on,
abuse.
that's what happens. I know. I'm a sensitive, delicate flower. I can't be yelled at. I didn't take this gig as a talk radio host to be yelled at.
I'll get an email written up to HR right away.
Yeah, please do. No, Bell's Matt. We're with Cameron Sexton. We're live at California Closets for the duration until 3 o'clock this afternoon. The drive with Brian Wilson at that time. Cameron gracious to come out and talk about the goings on in the General Assembly. I guess now that the two big issues involving transgender. Well, one was a transgender issue involving underage kids getting surgeries. That's through, and it's to the governor.
It is.
The other is being completely misrepresented, unfortunately, by some in the national media, and frankly, some right here in the state of Tennessee that know better. And I was talking to an opinion writer with the Tennessean, David Plazas, earlier today, and he is coming on the show next week to defend some of their reporting that's trying to suggest that the state of Tennessee has banned some of these cabaret-style drag performances. That's not the case. It is a measure, you correct me if I'm wrong, Speaker, to protect minor children from inadvertent or intentional exposure to these types of adult-themed performances.
Well, let me say, to ban means that you can never do it. And so the bill does not ban anything. It's if children are present. So if you want to have these adult drag cabarets, all you have to do is make it an over 21 event. You're willing to go forward. You just can't have kids looking in from the outside or being anywhere near where they see it. Once kids see it, then it starts into the legislation. But it doesn't do anything to ban it. It puts it into a category to protect kids, to make sure that if they do these sorts of things, then they're a certain place that they do them.
Is that one of the more frustrating components of your job? I don't want to. Well, let me ask it a different way because I don't want to lead you to the answer. But when people who ought to know better, who might have a difference of opinion, attempt to mischaracterize legislative intent, does that frustrate you?
I mean, it does. I mean, you look at it, though, and people all have a different story that they want to tell. They want something out of it. Tennesseans usually really good at telling the story that's more objective than most people. I guess sometimes on opinion pieces, it's their opinion, and so they can state what they believe. It's not the same as the journalists covering us, per se. But what I will say is even on the transgender bill, where you say minors, even with parental consent, cannot have gender reassignment surgeries. I get the question all the time. I was on PBS NewsHour the other day, and they say, you all are banning transgender health care. And I'm like, no, that's not accurate. They can have health care. It's about surgeries for minors. And so they're constantly, and what they do is when they say that, then the next reporter picks it up. And then what happens is people believe it's factual, and then you have to explain to them how that's not factual. And I think that's how they steamroll certain issues.
And it leads us to another issue that has come up in the General Assembly, and that is execution methods in the state of Tennessee. I think some are mischaracterizing the intent of this legislation. I would ask you, is this a solution in search of a problem? Do we have an issue? I mean, I think most Tennesseans believe that in the most heinous of circumstances, that taking the life of an individual that's committed some of these crimes is the only appropriate punishment. Most Tennesseans believe in capital punishment. But it's becoming more and more difficult to utilize lethal injection as a form of capital punishment, considering the drugs that are necessary in order to do that. Is this a solution in search of a problem, or do we have an issue down the road?
Well, I mean, you always have an issue because, people say the electric chair, you can't use the electric chair because that's inhumane and you shouldn't be able to use that. But lethal injection, you should. And then they start challenging the drugs and how you do it to really do it. And so you just have a group of people who do not believe in the death penalty, which is fine. Just say you don't believe in it, but don't knock the methods if you're trying to get there. And so the bill you're talking about is death by firing squad type of thing, which would not be a mandatory thing. The way the bill is written, it would add to one of the three. So you as the person could choose which method you wanted. I have people tell me that there's people who said they would choose that route. I don't know if I've ever met someone who wanted to choose that route, but that's what they say.
Is the electric chair still on the books?
It's still on the books, but even when we had the lethal injection issue with the drugs and not going through the process and protocols, it was never pulled out and used. Most people will choose lethal injection.
We spoke about the debate yesterday, and we spoke specifically about some of the comments made by Representative Paul Sherrill. He has subsequently apologized. I believe in the idea of free, fair, and open debate, and I understand that in the moment, sometimes things are said that aren't necessarily said artfully, or some things are said that maybe are not in the way that they're intended. For those that missed it yesterday, Paul wanted to add an amendment, and he said to include hanging by a tree. My frustration, Cameron, with that was that we're now completely off subject, and now we're talking about a set of things that is completely far and away from the subject matter that we were trying to debate. I don't know if you've had a chance to talk with Representative Sherrill or just have any thoughts on that aspect of this story.
Yeah, there's nobody who agrees with those choice of words because what you're bringing back to mind is something that happened back in the day in the 60s and 50s and so forth. And Representative Hardaway stood on the floor today and reminded everybody of some of those instances. And so that nobody wants to go down that road. That's not what we want to do here in Tennessee. I think everybody was offended by those words. I think Representative Sherrill afterwards, almost immediately, I think he was offended that he said it. And so he was given an opportunity to come on the House floor today, which he did, and apologized. And, people are now saying, well, it wasn't sincere enough or it wasn't this enough, which, okay, that's your personal opinion. But we have allowed members who have made mistakes, who said things or done things, to actually stand up on the House floor and apologize to the body. And then we'll watch as they go forward, and hopefully we won't have to address this again.
We are dealing with cancel culture in society, and the House of Representatives is not immune to that. And I note that because there are some that have immediately demanded censure or reprimand in some form or fashion. Do you feel like Representative Sherrill's public apology on the floor is enough?
Well, I think so at this point. There has been nothing else. We've allowed other people. Now, they're going to argue it wasn't to the level of what this is, and that's their own opinion. But to this point, he hasn't done anything like that. And so he has apologized like we've allowed other people. Very offensive to a lot of people. Maybe not everybody. I can't say everybody in the world, but to almost everybody in the General Assembly, it was offensive. It brings back recollection, but it's also a point that we should use as a learning experience and just reiterate why this is not acceptable, the past and the history, like Representative Hardaway did in an eloquent way of saying, here's why we don't do this stuff. Because then it's a learning moment, a teaching moment over something that was said that should have never been said as we try to walk through and get back to the point of what we're supposed to do in the General Assembly.
The two pieces that we referenced right at the beginning of the conversation probably got most attention in advance of the General Assembly. Number 3, and maybe I'm getting the order a little out of sorts, but it would be choice lanes. Where are we on the choice lane study or the proposal itself?
It's passed the House Full Transportation Committee, so it's moving through the process. It's probably a couple of weeks away from getting to the House floor. Our votes look very solid in the House. It just passed out of the Senate Transportation Committee, a little closer, 5-4 vote. But it looks like it's progressing out of the Senate as well.
What is that? When we say it, what is it? Is it the study, or are we talking about legislation that will initiate action on moving forward?
The legislation would initiate action. Right now, you cannot go down this road. So the legislation would allow TDOT to start going down that road and working in private-public partnerships for choice lanes.
And we've brought this up in the past. This would be a bid process?
It would go through the normal process, a bid process. You go through, it's sealed, you make a thing, and then
it's just making that an option for TDOT.
And then there's an oversight committee that would be put in place to make sure that those people would take it in. The best advice I got, and we're going to talk to Commissioner Ely about this, is also having somebody, as you're negotiating with these companies and you're trying to go get your bond, that we have experts who can make sure that we're not getting a bad deal from these companies who are wanting to put them in, that we do do our best to do our due diligence.
Does it give you a little bit of solace that we have an ability to look at other states, good states like Texas, Florida, and others who have gone down this road and probably, hit a pothole or two, pardon the play on words, along the way that we now in the state of Tennessee can avoid?
It always helps, and I know Commissioner Ely and the governor have been working with those other states, learning from them how to do it, how not to do it. So we feel comfortable. You're always going to have different little hurdles that you're going to have to get over and issues that's unique to your state. And so it's just things we're going to have to work through. But the problem is, and I was with the governor today, there's $26 billion in congestion road products or road improvements we need to make for congestion. If we spent $1 billion a year, that's 25 years to get there. If we spent $5 billion a year, that's 5 years to get there. But that means that we have done nothing else anywhere in our state except for that. And so you're trying to continue to build our growing economy and growing communities all across the state as we also try to handle these congestion issues.
And I think we have a theme going on in our conversation, and that is sometimes issues that we're talking about in the state are mischaracterized outside of the state. I was amused to see some of the headlines that came out of a conversation about education funding, specifically funding from the federal government, and the ability that Tennessee may have to say thanks, no thanks, to some of that money, which always comes with strings. I know that you don't expect that the national media is going to present a concept like this fairly. I think it freaks the federal government out a little bit, the suggestion that a state would take a little more of its power back and say no thanks to those dollars that come with all of these conditions. Where are we on that road?
Yeah, so we're about ready to put it on notice. We're working on language that would set up a group. First, we're going to ask Commissioner Swin to ask the federal government to remove all those strings and restrictions on that money, which we know is going to be no, but let's ask, because there's people who say, well, you should ask. So we're going to ask. And then we're going to set up the process with stakeholders and people throughout the rest of this year to come back in December with a plan on how to roll this out, how to stop the money, and what that looks like. Last thing you want to do is to do it too quick to where when you turn around you have all this chaos and you don't know how to do it, and then the public loses trust in how you rolled this out. So we're going to pass something. We're going to move in that role. We're going to have the meetings this summer. But I can tell you, I've talked to the County Government Association this week. When I was talking about it, a lot of heads were nodding. They actually applauded when we talked about it. Talked to school board members. They're on board with it. Not all of them, but a lot of them. You have teachers. You have other people who say the federal government puts 17 tests in our classroom, 17. And then they add employees to us that we have to report back. They go through Title IX. So there's a lot of issues with taking federal money. If we can pay for it ourselves, and I think that's where the national media is. They're like, oh, you're not going to pay for it. Well, how many times do I have to say the state's going to pay for it before you believe me? If we put it in, well, even if you put it in, you're not going to do it the way they're supposed to do. And it's like, people, they just don't want to believe it. And the last thing is they'll go, but that's our tax money. That's going to Washington. And I'm like, well, last time I saw it was $30 trillion of debt. They're spending more than our tax money. That's not, we're paying for it with debt. They're paying debt for us to fund our tax.
I mean, maybe I'm the crazy one, but when the argument comes down to, well, that's just money on the table that you're leaving on the table. No, that money doesn't actually exist until Tennessee takes it. Right? If Tennessee chooses not to take that money, that's simply money that the government will not borrow against its good faith and credit. And it's not creative. It's why I refer to it as fake money, and people get upset at me because they think I don't think I'm oversimplifying. It's fake money in the sense that it doesn't exist until Tennessee accepts it. And when Tennessee accepts it, then the federal government goes about the business of creating it because we owe so much money to ourselves.
Yeah, no, you're exactly right. You're exactly right. And, the federal government wants to intervene. And so they put things in our classroom and in our schools that Tennesseans do not believe in. It's not the same values. And so why would we take money from someone when we can fund it ourselves to do their values instead of our values in a very simplistic
Well, in a
form?
comparative way, you look at some of the language being used against Governor Ron DeSantis because he stood up against a curriculum that he did not believe represented the values of the state of Florida. I think Tennessee is served very well by people like you and others who are willing to stand up and say, you know what? With those monies come strings, and we're not gonna abide by that in the state of Tennessee.
Absolutely.
When I came to the state, a couple of rapid fire questions before we say goodbye. I I was pleased to see that Tennessee had put to bed the issue of whether I needed to get a gun permit or not. But apparently that hasn't quite been put to bed. I've talked to John Harris with the Tennessee Firearms Association quite a bit, and John loves to say, I'm sure he said the same to you, we don't have constitutional carry in Tennessee. Right. We have affirmative defense. Is this an issue that needs to be taken care of?
It is. The bill is running through the House. Representative Rusty Grills has it. It will move the age to 18. It will go from handgun to firearm. It will be true constitutional carry. It also removes affirmative defense and some other things that are problematic. So it's a cleanup that will move us straight to constitutional carry.
And and finally, and I know this is more of a personal issue for me, and I've kind of carried this as almost an activist over the years, but the issue of medical marijuana has come up, and it's, it's the way that the body works. I mean, I get it. I mean, you've got to convince enough people to get it out of committee, to get to the floor, and et cetera, but it looks like that's dead for another year. Do you expect it to come up in the House at all? I know that was on the Senate side.
Well, if there's a companion bill still up that can be used on the Senate side, we will. We usually won't take up something if the bill's killed on the other side because it's
a waste of time.
But the House is closer to medical marijuana in certain situations, certain diagnoses, in certain forms. And so we want to try to keep it as close to medical forms as we can and not get into the lollipops and candy bars and stuff that look like recreational, where someone may be trying to market recreational instead of really marketing it medical.
Right, and that's always the struggle, right, is that if we want to debate recreational, we can do that. Right. I think it would be soundly defeated. If we want to talk medical, we can do that, but they always kind of muddy the waters.
Unfortunately, that's the case. But we're close in the House of doing medical.
Thank you for coming to see us at California Closets. And you just pick something out and tell Curtis.
We'll go.
Just tell Curtis on me, and we'll take care of it. Right. There's Cameron Sexton, Speaker of the House. We'll take a short time out and be back in a moment, wrap things up from California Closets on The Murphy Show, Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
2:35. I'm Mac Morey with your top stories. Right now, 65 degrees and a cloudy day. Expecting storms later on tonight. Really, tomorrow morning, early hours of Friday. Wind advisory begins at 3 a.m. Could see gusts of up to 55 miles an hour. A chance of a possible tornado or two in Middle Tennessee cannot be ruled out. We'll keep you updated with all that, all the risks ahead. Weather coming up in just a few minutes. The operators of a chain of New England addiction treatment centers charged with a scheme to defraud millions from Medicaid and Medicare for services not rendered. Dave Packer.
Michael Breyer of Massachusetts and Miak Bruning of Rhode Island accused of scamming the federal government out of millions. U.S. Attorney in Rhode Island Zachary Cunha is saying that the two led a scheme while operating Recovery Connection Centers of America to bill Medicare and Medicaid millions for treatments that either never happened or sessions that were far shorter than claimed.
And by billing for so many therapy sessions in one day that it would have been physically impossible for a provider to have conducted the sessions.
Breyer has been charged with healthcare fraud, aggravated identity theft, money laundering, and obstruction.
And airlines, air travel, the next few months expected to be busy ones. Brian Clark gives us a preview.
Airlines are still scheduling fewer flights than they were before the pandemic, but passenger demand is surging back. Lobbying group Airlines for America says U.S. carriers are expecting the busiest spring season in history, about 2.6 million passengers per day. That's 158 million in March and April. That would be 2 million more than the same period in 2019. It's leading carriers to use larger planes with more seats.
And that is the latest news. Weather's next. I'm Mac Morey, WTN News.
Man, oh man, my listeners know me so well. By the way, it's the Matt Murphy Show, Super Talk 99.7 WTN. I'm going to respond to a few of your super texts coming up in moments, so please get them in here. Get them in here. 615-737-9986. Thanks again to Cameron Sexton just leaving us. He was gracious enough, I'll tell you, and I mentioned this at the beginning of the interview, and it's true. Cameron and I, we set up a get-together during the General Assembly every Friday because I wanted to talk to the Speaker of the House, and he wants to talk to you. Not to me. I'm just some chucklehead on the radio. He wanted to talk to you. And I told him I was not going to be here Friday, and I'm not going to be here tomorrow. Cameron Smith will be in for me from noon until 3. And Cameron says, that's okay. Let's do it on Thursday. And then it was decided, our sales force in partnership with our great sponsor, California Closets, decided that we would be out during noon to 3. And I call Cameron's folks and say, hey, I'm not going to be able to be in studio. You can cancel if you want to. And he said, no, absolutely not. I'll come out to see you. So they traveled from downtown. And I appreciate that in his level of public service. I like Cameron personally, and I appreciate what he does for the state of Tennessee, at least as far as I have known him. 615-737-9986 is our telephone number if you'd like to be in part of the show. But I mentioned that the listening audience knows me so well because one of our loyal listeners brought me by a sleeve of golf balls, and he must know that the reason I'm off tomorrow is because I'm going to play golf over on the other part of the state, and I need as many of these as I can get. My golf balls... I tell my golf balls that they're either going scuba diving or they're going to the beach because that's where they end up invariably. Right. So, thank you. And it's was it Tech Squared? Tech Squared. See, I remember that without getting a golf ball out. All right. Do something about the homeless junkies all over the place. That's from 6766. I asked this question yesterday and I got a tremendous amount of response from the super text line because I don't know, and I don't presume to know. The last thing I want to do is come in to my new beautiful home state of Tennessee and my beautiful metropolitan area of Nashville and try to explain to people the way I think things ought to be. I don't presume to know how things were, and I'm not going to presume to know how things ought to be. So I'm not going to tell you how Nashville was if I don't know. But I have noticed my experience. I've noticed that there's a lot of homelessness. Well, you expect that. In any area that has 2 million people in it, you're going to expect a certain amount of homelessness. I've noticed in the last 15 months that I've been in Nashville, a lot of drug use. I think I told this story a few weeks ago. Oftentimes I forget if I tell stories on air or off, but I had some friends that came into town. They called me and knew these were friends from Birmingham, knew that I was in Nashville and contacted me and wanted to know, hey, what should we do? Where should we go? What are the things that you found that are exciting? And so I related some of that to my buddy. And, my buddy relates to me their experience where they were at a park downtown Nashville and they watched a guy shooting up in the park. And then you got to take your wife and you got to get up off the park bench and you got to leave the park because you don't know what's going to happen after somebody shoots up in the park. So it is an issue that has been noticed. And the more people notice it, the more they carry it home with them to Birmingham or to Charlotte or to wherever they're coming from. And at some point, the word gets out that things aren't the way they should be, even in the tourism areas. I think it's a crying shame. I saw a story the other day about, and it was on one of the local news channels, about the downtown bars, Lower Broadway, which, look, I get it. I understand there's a lot of bars down there. There's a lot of drinking down there, and I understand it. I am not a Pollyanna when it comes to this. But when the local business establishments feel like they have to hire private security on their own to stop the rampant drug use that's going on Lower Broadway, and I'm not even talking about the occasional, joint being lit up, but I'm talking about that too, well, that's a problem too. 6766 says it's not just homelessness, they're junkies making everywhere unsafe. You can't go to Walmart or a gas station without these zombies approaching you. His words, not mine. You're right. You're right. I've noticed, and look, I've not been in Atlanta with any recency, but I've noticed that there are more, especially in the downtown areas, there are more people that hover about the traffic lights. And I'm not being flip or funny when I say this. I've often wondered if they designate a traffic light for themselves. You know what I mean? Like, do they have? I see the same people at the same lights on a regular basis, and I'm wondering, do they scout out? Is that territory? Is it like prostitution, where they have a certain? You know what I mean? I'm not being flip. I'm being serious. Larry writes in and says, so when will Jay be on? No Jay today. I will have a belly full of Jay tomorrow, Saturday, and Sunday. So we could not work it out with everything else going on with California Closets to have Jay on. So my apologies about that. It's kind of you to ask, Larry, and sadly we will not have Jay. Matt, if they enlist the draft, how young are they allowed to change the age to? That from 3455. I don't know what that is in reference to necessarily, but it's a Thursday T&A. That would be texts and answers. And so I'll answer any and all of your texts. I do not believe that we will ever institute the draft. I believe that they still do selective service, right? When you graduate high school? I know I had to fill out my little card. Did you have to fill out yours? There will never be another compulsory draft in the United States of America. I do not believe that. Absent some style of warfare that I think we've moved beyond, I do not believe that there'll be compulsory enlistment. I do believe in America. I still think that we've got a heart of America where individuals would volunteer to serve their country should their country be attacked. Hey, do you think Ron DeSantis, we've done an impromptu Thursday T&A, texts and answers. Hey, do you think Ron DeSantis, the governor of Florida, would be a good president? I do. The question is whether it's Ron DeSantis' time or not. Now, obviously, he has to ask himself that question. He has to deal with that personally and with his family. After he does so, then he'll let us know. He says that he'll make a decision as to whether he's running for president of the United States of America after the General Assembly or the legislature in the state of Florida is out. I think that's April. My best guess is that Ron DeSantis is going to throw his hat in the ring. It will be a one-on-one, essentially a one-on-one competition between Ron DeSantis and former President Donald Trump. The question we have to ask ourselves, are we going to make one or both of these men, one or the other, an enemy when we don't have to? It doesn't mean that Ron DeSantis is a bad person or would be a bad president if I decide it's not quite his time just yet. That said, I've not made any determination as to who I'm going to support, and I would encourage you not to do that either. We don't have to decide these things until well into 2024, and I would encourage you not to do that. Anthony says, I love how you have to clarify T&A. Well, what did old Uncle Phil used to say? There's Van Gogh listeners, and they might be thinking that I'm talking about something else. Of course I'm not. This is a family show. I'm talking about texts and answers on the Matt Murphy Show on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Yeah, I mean, Dave writes in and says, Vivek 2024. I'm very curious to get an opportunity to talk to. Let's see if I get it right, Dave. You give me a thumbs up if I do. It's Vivek Ramaswamy, I think is his name. Vivek Ramaswamy has announced, he did so on Tucker Carlson the other day, that he's running for president of the United States. Yeah, bring her on. I mean, you can bring her over. Bring her or him over. Sure. We got like 5 minutes. I'll tell you what, I'm going to take a quick time out, and we'll have like 3 minutes on the other side, and we'll finish it up from California Closet. It's 2:50 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Just all right, kids, that does it for us. Thank you for begging our indulgence out at California Closet. Come by and see them. They're here all day long, and for the foreseeable future, Kurt and his team are here. They've got the brand new showroom up and running. We appreciate them acting as hosts. 420 Cool Springs Boulevard. I'm out tomorrow. Cameron Smith in for me. And coming up, the one and only Brian Wilson on The Drive on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Have a great weekend, folks. We'll talk to you on Monday. So long.
Three o'clock, I'm Mac Maury with your top stories. Right now, 65 degrees and a cloudy day in Music City. Expecting some thunderstorms tomorrow morning into the rest of the day, Friday. A wind advisory beginning at 3 a.m. tomorrow morning. Could see gusts of up to 55 miles an hour, and this could leave the open chance for a possible tornado or two. Low severity risk right now for those. We'll keep you updated right here on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Weather report and traffic coming up next. The U.S. will be announcing more military assistance for Ukraine tomorrow. White House spokesman Reed Admiral General John Kirby making that announcement during today's briefing.
The U.S. will have another round of assistance for Ukraine coming tomorrow, and it will include mostly ammunitions and munitions that the Ukrainians will need for the systems that they already have, like the HIMARS and the artillery.
And a bill is headed for the full state Senate floor that some teachers say will do more harm than good in the classroom.
Fox 17 says a bill that just passed the state's education committee removes the cap on how many students are allowed in a Tennessee classroom. Right now, the max is 25 to 30. Some teachers say the whole reason for the cap was to help with student behavior and improve test scores. And the Professional Educators of Tennessee says teachers should seek more pay if they have to take on more students. But the bill's sponsor, John Lundberg, says he doesn't expect any dramatic increases from where class sizes are now. He says it's for when something happens and districts need to put one or two more students in a classroom. And he says the bill requires districts to apply for waivers, which have to be signed off on by the State Department of Education. Ken Weaver, WTN News.
Crime right now in Tennessee. News 2 says that a man, 64-year-old O.C. Nash Jr., allegedly shot and killed 66-year-old John Thomas Klaus and is now facing murder charges. Reports indicate that this happened during a confrontation and that the two were acquaintances. Nash was arrested and charged with one count of second-degree murder and one count of aggravated assault. He's currently being held in the White County Sheriff's Office on a $300,000 bond. And a Pennsylvania man arrested for putting an explosive into his checked luggage appeared in court today. Aaron Katersky.
Mark Muffley mouthed, "No, I'm not," after a prosecutor told the judge he represented a danger to the community. The judge appeared to agree with the government and ordered Muffley detained. He's charged with possession of an explosive in an airport after the FBI said agents found an explosive in his suitcase. The defense said it was nothing but a firework, and prosecutors didn't necessarily disagree, but said it still posed a threat to the aircraft and to passengers. When Muffley was paged over the airport intercom, he called his girlfriend to pick him up. And once in the car, prosecutors said he changed his telephone number.
And here in Tennessee, famous country star Morgan Wallen offered free tickets for a concert tomorrow night at Bridgestone Arena. This is paired with a new album announcement, One Thing at a Time, that comes out tomorrow. That announcement was immediately met with thousands of people stopping their days to come to Lower Broad in hopes of getting some free tickets. It was max 2 tickets per person, and by noon, Bridgestone had sold out of tickets. Doors open tomorrow night at 4:30. And that's the latest news. Weather's next. I'm Mac Maury, WTN News.